Hello, and welcome to the Love Your Work Life podcast. I'm your host, Elissa Shuck. Whether you're going for that next promotion, looking for a job, or making a career pivot, I'll teach you how to navigate it all so you can have the career you want. Welcome to Love Your Work Life, episode 105. I have a really special treat for you. Last week, I did a Q&A inside Control Your Career, addressing some of the most pressing, worrisome, challenging questions, common questions that you encounter as a leader. Listen in and enjoy. It's Q&A time here in Control Your Career, and this month has been all about leadership. So I hope you've taken advantage of the leadership modules in your study vault. Today, I want to talk about some of the burning questions that always seem to come up when you're in a leadership role. And I have a soft spot in my heart for middle management because that is where you're getting squeezed, right? You're always managing up to your leaders, and you're having to lead and manage down to your direct reports. That's why you get kind of squished in the middle. And so I want to share with you some of the questions that have come in on what to do in some very specific circumstances. And let's just take them one at a time. That squeeze that I mentioned is actually the first question that I want to answer. And that is, what do you do when you're caught in the middle between upper management and your team? You could start to feel that middle management squeeze when a policy comes down that you don't exactly agree with, or a project has a really tight timeline. And you still want to be an advocate for your team, but you know that you've got to deliver as a manager for the strategies and whatnot that are coming down from upper management. The best way to handle this caught in the middle situation is to just be real and honest with yourself first and foremost, and be prepared to have the conversations around that, both in managing up and in managing your own team. Say, for instance, a new policy comes through, or there's a tight deadline. You can always go to your manager, go to your leadership, and ask some good questions. Curiosity, you guys have probably heard me say it over and over again, is such a good place to be, always. And so when you go to your leadership from a place of curiosity, and even use the word, hey, I'm really curious. What is driving this deadline? What is the reasoning behind this new policy? I want to get behind it and do everything I can, but I'd love to know what is the context behind it. When you have more context, you'll be able to create a dialogue with your leader, with your manager, and collaborate a little bit. Be willing to share your reasons of why you expect to have some concerns. If it's a deadline and you have concerns whether your team can deliver on that deadline, then be prepared to share the other things that the team is doing and ask for help on reprioritization. You could say something like, hey, we really want to make sure this happens. Here are the other things we're working on. What would you suggest we deprioritize so that we can make this new thing happen? It's okay to raise your hand. It's okay to give visibility to your leadership team about everything that's going on so that you can make a decision together. What if your leader leaves it up to you? Hey, do whatever you need to do, but this one needs to come to the top. That's the perfect time to leverage the relationship with your team about what comes next. So now you've gotten the conversation with your leader, with your manager, and you're going to take this new initiative, this new policy, this new project to your team. Be real and be authentic with them. You don't have to badmouth leadership, but you can say to your team, hey, everybody, just need to let you know we've got this new initiative happening. It's a high priority. I've already addressed the bandwidth concerns that I know you'll have, that I also have, and this is what we're going to do. Or you can say, so I'd like to discuss with you how we're going to restructure ourselves, reallocate resources so that we can make this a top priority. You can own the decision. The buck is going to stop with you, most likely. You're going to be the one that has to deliver the news of what's happening. But when you involve your team in the decision, and at some point when you say, hey, love what we've all been discussing here, but this is the way it's going to have to be. I sympathize with you, but this is the plan that we're going to take. It shows them that you care. It shows them that you're their advocate. But at some point, when you have to make that decision, them knowing that you've been advocating for them makes the decision a lot easier for them to handle. Realize you're not caught. You are leveraging the middle. You are managing the relationships proactively. You are doing what you are supposed to do, being that person that is managing both sides and doing it really well because you're meant to be there. You're there to help both sides of the company get what they want, and you're equipped to do it. Believe that in yourself first, and then leverage some of your communication skills, your manage up, manage down skills, and you will do well. Let's take a look at the next question. How do you address a team member about their poor performance? Well, believe it or not, the first thing that has to happen is you have to set job performance expectations. This has to happen well in advance. When you come in as a new manager or you've just decided that you're ready for your team to level up, set the expectations. This way, when you have to address someone about their performance, it's not a surprise. There should absolutely be no surprises for people when you have to address their job performance, and it's not when you've set the expectations in advance. Now, you may have some things in your employee manual. You may have some things that HR has set in terms of foundational job performance behaviors that are an expectation. So you can always refer back to that. But I always love, again, check in with HR and make sure that they're cool with it. But I always love a leader setting expectations that expand on the employee manual. When you do this, you are setting up your team for success because there's no ambiguity about what you expect in terms of excellence, job performance behaviors as it relates to interpersonal relationships, and really how you measure excellence. So first of all, you've got to have that list. I love setting the expectations as a list of behaviors. Let's put it that way. Because behaviors are things that people can control. Our behaviors may lead to meeting a quota or delivering things on time. When you make behaviors the focus, it makes it so much easier for you to evaluate job performance. So let's talk about a few of those. The first one I always love to include is treat others with respect and dignity. Treating each other with respect and dignity as a job performance expectation just eliminates so much when it comes to you having to address people for creating a toxic work environment or treating other people badly, saying things that have no place in the workplace. You don't have to get down to the nitty-gritty with a whole bunch of examples. If you're too specific, then someone can come to you and say, well, you didn't say that. That wasn't in the manual. That wasn't part of our team expectations. You can give some simple examples of what treating each other with respect and dignity looks like, but by keeping it simple, then when something happens and you can point out to the fact that this is not aligned with treating each other with respect and dignity, it gives you more space as a leader to flex, to adapt, to make sure that you're giving room for the behaviors that are exemplary in terms of treating each other with respect and dignity. And then you can also address the things that aren't. So say, for example, that is one of your key job performance measures. Then you can say to your team or to the individual, an example of treating each other with respect and dignity is showing up on time. Now, timeliness might be an expectation. It's reasonable. But isn't it interesting how it actually is treating other people with respect and dignity? Because if someone's late to a meeting, they are actually disrespecting everybody else in the meeting who showed up on time. Another job performance expectation that I love including is be open to learning and sharing your knowledge. This is so important because you don't want anybody hoarding knowledge on the team. And it's another way for people to feel valued, that there's something they know that they can share. And it's important to share so that everybody knows what's going on. It's important to learn because there may be opportunities to grow and expand. So make sure that that is another one of those things on your list. If you have quotas, if you have goals, if you have metrics that you as a team are responsible for achieving, then you can also include something like achieve goals on a consistent basis. You don't have to get specific about the goals, but when you say achieve consistently, you're allowing room for the adjustments that business will naturally have. If you have a 5% goal one month and a 10% goal the next month, then you don't have to worry about analyzing performance based on those percentages. You can just say consistently achieves goals. All right, I think you get where I'm going with this. Now, how do you address someone that is having a performance issue? Well, the first thing you do, of course, is be curious. Be open to hearing from them what's going on. That first meeting is going to be you saying something like, hey, I've noticed that you haven't been doing this, or I've noticed that an area of your job performance really has not met the level of expectation that we've agreed to as a team. Tell me what's going on. Just giving your employee an opportunity to share what's going on is going to give you some great insight as to how you handle the next thing. Maybe they have too much on their plate. Maybe they have personal issues going on at home. You don't really need to know all of the details. You just need to give them the opportunity to feel heard first. The next thing can be, thank you so much for sharing that. I can empathize with what's happening, but I really need to know, how can we get past this? What can we do together to help you get back to the level of performance that is expected on the team? This conversation is a collaboration as much as possible. Again, I'm talking about the first one. Make it as collaborative as possible. When you are done having that conversation and you've come to an agreement about what they're going to do to improve, then set a follow-up meeting. Don't just leave them out there hanging. Say something like, that's great. I think that makes sense. It's a good plan. Let's check in again in a couple weeks. Let's check in again in a month and see if that's working and see if that's getting the result that we both know we want. And if you need to check in before that, then let's do that too. Totally open to it. Letting them know that you're there to support and facilitate their success, achieving those job performance expectations is your first role as their leader, as their manager. When you finish the conversation, document it. I know it seems like, hey, it was just a casual conversation. They agreed with me. We had a plan. If you don't document it, you may regret it later. And that's because if this person is habitually not achieving the expectations of the role, you don't want to have to start documenting from the point where it's getting rough. It just extends any disciplinary action. If it comes to a termination kind of a thing, then all that happens is you make that take longer. So just jot down a few notes, put them in a secure folder. If you have a secure folder on your computer, if you have a notebook that you can make some notes in and lock it in your file cabinet, wherever, then do that. Date it. It's not necessary for the other person to sign it or anything like that. It's just you having that documentation. Trust me, if you get into a difficult situation and you now need to go to HR and say, hey, I've got a serious problem with this person, one of the first things they're going to ask is, have you documented it? And if you have documentation of those conversations, you're going to be in such better shape. What if you have to have conversation number 2 with someone? And conversation number 2 is, hey, I've noticed that there hasn't been a whole lot of improvement in the issue, the matter that we discussed last month. Why do you think that is? Again, you're giving them responsibility. You're helping them own their job performance. You're helping them own their behaviors in the workplace. Listen to what they have to say. You're going to come up with a game plan. Only this time, end the conversation with something to the effect of, thank you so much. I know that you're capable of doing this, and I just want you to know that I expect immediate and consistent improvement from you in this area. Letting them know that you expect immediate and consistent improvement gives you the opportunity to address inconsistencies or them slipping back into old negative behaviors or patterns of not achieving the goal because you've let them know what you expect. This is the key to everything. When you have set the expectations, when you have let them know and you've reminded them, hey, this is what we expect. This is our commitment to each other. As a team, it's going to make it so much easier because no disciplinary action, no conversation, no termination should be a surprise to someone when it's for job performance issues. And you have the power to set them up for success, and you have the power to give yourself the space you need to be the leader you want to be and to hold people accountable to those expectations. All right, let's tackle another one. What are the best ways to empower team members? I love this because, as I said, you're setting the expectations up front, gives them visibility, gives them something to shoot for, gives you something to hold them accountable for. But some really great ways to make sure that your team is always performing at a high level is to empower them to do so. One of my favorite ways to do that is to have regular meetings that do not have an agenda other than everyone going around the room and sharing what they're doing in their area of responsibility. Chances are you've got people with varying roles on your team. You might have a few program managers, you might have a few project managers. In my old world, I had designers, I had chemists, I had supply chain. So I would get all of the people in a room together. And sometimes it's even the cross-functional people that don't report directly to you, but they are integral to the success of your team members. That interdependence on each other, those are the people that you want to get in a room together. And when you do, and everyone goes around and starts to share what they're working on, it's very natural for any of those crossover responsibilities or accountabilities to rise to the top. If one person says, I'm working on this, here's the challenge I'm having, and someone else has an idea that can help them with that challenge, or their role intersects with that challenge and now it's become visible to everybody, then together you can come up with solutions. This is one of the best ways to empower your team because you are putting the burden of thinking on them. It's so cool because you as a leader, you're just sitting back and you're listening to all of the sharing, you're listening to all of the collaboration, you're throwing in your 2 cents when necessary or when a decision needs to be made about how to prioritize or sort of a fire that needs to be put out. These non-agenda meetings, do it once a month. Do it with your entire team. Include the cross-functional people that have roles that your team is depending on for their success, and everyone will feel empowered. You're going to be building trust and rapport with people because now they're also going to have visibility to the challenges that other people have in their role, things that they may not have even known about because it's an area of specialization they don't have. Such an awesome way to ensure that your team is doing everything they can to support each other and you're empowering them to do so. The last question is one that I know a lot of leaders who really care want help with, and that is, how do you create a positive team culture? Well, the best way to do that is through mutual respect, leading by example, making sure that everyone is held to the same standard of excellence, that they know if someone is not doing their job, that you are a leader who is going to address those issues. It's about the competence, the character, the clarity, and the care that we've been talking about throughout this month inside Control Your Career. But on a practical level, my all-time favorite way to create a positive team culture is by saying thank you and creating an atmosphere of appreciation. Saying thank you at the end of the day, saying thank you for the little things, the big things is major. It goes a long way to creating an atmosphere of positivity amongst your team members, just because you're doing it and you're leading by example. And when you say thank you, do your very best to pick out something specific that you're thankful for. Again, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Say you've just had one of those non-agenda kind of meetings where everybody is sharing. Maybe at the end you say thank you. Maybe you take a few people aside later in your one-on-one even, and you say, hey, thank you so much for sharing what you did in our last team meeting. I really appreciated that you gave some specific examples of how someone else's role impacts yours. I know it took some courage to do that, and I really appreciate it. You've just picked out something very specific. You've just helped them understand that you see them, that you are aware of what's going on. Like I said, these don't have to be big, giant things. They can be small things. Hey, thank you so much for showing up early the other day. I really appreciate that you're getting a head start on things. Can you imagine if someone noticed that kind of thing about you and mentioned it specifically? It's a morale boost. It's a culture boost. And it doesn't take anything but you observing and acknowledging your team. The last piece of this acknowledgement is helping your team acknowledge each other. Something that I loved to do on a fairly regular basis. It didn't have to happen every single week at a team meeting. Maybe it was a quarterly thing, but at least a couple times a year in a meeting, hand out a piece of paper, a small piece of paper, could be a sticky note even. I love sticky notes. Hand one out to each person on the team and ask them to write something they appreciate about the person on their right or the person on their left. It doesn't matter which direction you go. What's cool about giving them a sticky note is they can keep it concise. It will be very specific. And you know what? The sticky note can go on someone's computer. How cool is it that they have something that a team member appreciates about them in writing that they can refer to? When you do this, you're giving your team an opportunity to acknowledge each other, appreciate each other. It's not just your job. It's a part of your job, but you're not wholly responsible for making everybody feel good about each other, but you can give them opportunities to do it for each other, to facilitate those kinds of culture building, positive moments that they will remember for a lifetime. Trust me. All right, my friends. Hey, being a leader is a big responsibility, but it doesn't have to be a burden. Look for the ways that you can lighten up the environment and at the same time hold everyone accountable to a high level of excellence. And I'm telling you, management and leadership gets so easy when you have trust and appreciation amongst your team members, because they will anticipate your needs and they will walk through walls for you. That's what every leader wants, and you can absolutely do it. I hope you enjoyed seeing behind the curtain with that Q&A session inside Control Your Career. There's lots and lots of resources in there. I designed that membership to be everything you need to take charge of your own professional development. I actually did a poll on LinkedIn just recently about what are the things that you would like to have your company provide for you when it comes to professional growth and development. And leadership and management is currently scoring number one. There were 4 choices. That one is getting 45% of the vote. That's why I'm putting all of that content into the membership so that you can be the leader and manager you want to be. All of the recordings of the intro workshop I did on leadership, as well as this Q&A recording, are in there, along with the 5 key components that make you a successful leader. So check it out. The membership is only $20 a month. I would love to have you in there forever. But listen, if you can get what you need in a few months, you have the option to cancel anytime. If you want to commit to a year of owning your own professional development, then you can do that for $197, which is basically getting 2 months for free. All right, I'll see you on the inside. Here's the thing. You are going to work 90,000 hours in your lifetime. That's 30% of your life. And for some of you, it's probably even more than that. So you might as well take control of it. Learn the skills you need to learn, get the professional development resources you need to excel and deliver and have impact. That's what my membership, Control Your Career, is all about. Join for $20 a month or $197 a year. If you want VIP treatment, you can get access to that too. The bottom line is I want you to have all the resources you need to create a thriving career anytime you want. And when you hit some blocks, then I'm going to give you some things on how to survive too, week after week, month after month, inside Control Your Career. Go to elissashuck-careercoach.com/control-your-career. I will see you there.